Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today we have a special episode where we're welcoming AGE-u-cate and Jessica Smith, who's the Director of Senior Living Initiatives. Welcome, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Today we're doing a Dementia Live experience, and I want to just have our viewers and listeners, if you wouldn't mind, share with them what a Dementia Live experience is.
Dementia Live is where they get to alter their senses so that it feels like what it's like to live with dementia. And then they're given a set of tasks, very simple tasks to complete. And so today we have one person that's going to go through the experience. Sometimes it's a group, but this way they can kind of get some interaction going, just like they would in a residential care facility or something similar. All the tasks are very easy, similar things to what we would ask a person living with dementia to do.
Like what's all
just like we
us?
have set up, yeah.
Okay.
So like taking your pill, organizing silverware, doing a puzzle, things like that.
So this is not a virtual experience, like, because I know some viewers and listeners might be familiar with that.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a virtual experience versus this live experience or lived experience?
So I personally haven't done the virtual experiences, but virtual, of course, is, where there's a camera in front of your face displaying a screen, and that's what you're kind of experiencing. Whereas this time we're altering your actual senses, and then you're trying to use those altered senses to complete the tasks. So you're able to feel more so what it's like to truly live with dementia.
Okay. And AGE-u-cate helps families or professionals,
Yes,
facilities or private homes.
Yeah, we work with, even professional organizations like area agencies on aging and healthcare plans. I personally, being senior living, work with senior living providers, so mostly that residential care side of things, but we work with home care providers, assisted living, even universities and higher education platforms.
What other resources other than the Dementia Live experience or Dementia Live experience, what other resources does AGE-u-cate have?
Yeah, so we have several different training and education programs. Another one is called Compassionate Touch, and that's all about embracing the connection between the caregiver and the person living with dementia, or even just a senior. They don't even have to have dementia. So Compassionate Touch is very powerful, especially after a recent experience with the pandemic.
Sure.
And then we also have some other resources like our Opening Minds Through Art program. So it's a supportive program for offering art-based activities for residents or folks living with dementia. And then we also have a couple other supportive programs. One of those would be our Reveal Aging program, which is online learning, and there's a variety of different topics that folks can buy a course or utilize a course to train themselves or maybe the team that they work with. And so we have a lot of different variety of things that can support the training and education side of things. But then we do have life enrichment resource as well. It's called Flashback. It's just a reminiscent activity that anybody can use with any senior, and it's designed to really help with bridging the gap between generations and again forming connections with folks.
Wonderful. We'll have this in the show notes, but for our viewers and listeners, where would you like them to go to learn more?
AGE-u-cate.com.
All right. So now we're going to watch a live experience with Jessica and one of our volunteers of what it's like living with dementia.
All right, so my name's Jessica, and I'm a certified dementia trainer for Dementia Live. I'm excited to have you go through the experience today.
Thank you.
The first thing I'm going to do is kind of explain all of the sensory equipment that we're going to use so that you know what to expect.
Right.
Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a good plan.
All right. So the first thing is you're just going to put on a pair of these knit gloves for me. And that's to just simulate the loss or reduction of fine motor skills and tactile abilities.
Okay.
All right, and the next piece is these goggles, and they are blacked out strategically to
Put mine out?
Yep. Simulate the loss of peripheral vision, which we know happens as folks age and with the progression of the dementia disease process. All right. How you doing so far?
So far, good.
All right. The last piece, we're just going to put on these headphones. There is an audio track downloaded on here. It'll be playing for you. And it is designed to confuse your non-confused brain. So this is not what folks with dementia are hearing, but this is just designed to help you function in your brain the way that someone with dementia might function. Okay? Pop those on. Beautiful. Can you hear me okay?
A lot of beeping going on.
Perfect. Good. All right, I'm going to give you a set of tasks, and then I'm going to ask you to just do your best to complete those, okay?
Okay.
All right. Tie the shoes. Add 16 and 23 on the calculator. Circle the fork and lamp on the activity page, and place a call to your friend and give them the day and time.
Okay. It should actually be just one setting. Can I stop for a minute? You said the silverware first, correct? You just want one place setting. All right, so that should do it. Now go to the shoe tying. I gotta call somebody. Oh, I gotta add 16 plus 39? I can't see it. What's next? Okay. No, this. Hello? This is Mom calling. Call me back. What was next?
You can take everything off. All right, all done. All right, so we're going to talk about the specific task that I gave you in just a moment.
Okay.
But first, I'm going to hand you this little sheet about emotions. And can you, using that sheet, tell me a little bit about how you were feeling while you were trying to complete the tasks? Do they feel familiar?
Probably felt a little foolish.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a little lonely.
Okay, yeah.
And probably a little tense.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
It's a little nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is, you know. And so I think that would kind of sum it up.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I'll take that back from you.
Sure.
So you mentioned feeling a little foolish or maybe a little frustrated and kind of ridiculous, right?
Right.
So do you think that folks living with dementia often feel frustrated and foolish?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah, especially when you were frustrated, I know there at the end, about what the last task was. You couldn't remember what it was. And that was especially frustrating, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So how, in that moment, how did you feel? Were you feeling foolish and frustrated, or maybe a little different?
I think I felt foolish thinking, oh, man, there wasn't that many tasks to do, but all of a sudden I just couldn't remember, what did she say?
Yeah, your mind kind of goes blank, doesn't it?
exactly.
Just all of a sudden it gets washed away.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I know one of the first tasks that I gave you was to look at the activity page and circle the fork. And did you do anything with the fork?
Well, I heard fork.
Yep.
And I saw all the flatware, plasticware actually.
Sure.
So I was thinking, in my mind, I thought she just wants me to show like a place setting with them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even see the activity page.
Sure, sure. And I have it kind of set up off to the side too, and it's a white page on the white wall, so it's hard to see.
Right.
Which makes it even tougher.
Exactly. Because all I saw was that bunch of flatware, and I go, oh, I know what to do with this.
That's right. Yeah, so in thinking about that, the contrast side of things, so when folks are aging and then they're dealing with memory loss and brain changes that are affecting their vision, their ability to detect contrast is even harder, right? It's much more diminished. Right. So I strategically put that white paper on the white wall so that it would be harder for you to find. Do you think that folks who care for those living with dementia are often not thinking of contrast and maybe putting a white blanket on the white bed sheet?
They probably, sometimes I don't think they realize that. Absolutely.
Things to think about, right?
The person, then they can't determine the difference or what is what.
Exactly, exactly. Just like a white pill pack or a silver pill pack on a counter that might be similar color.
Right.
You might forget to take the pills because we can't see them.
You can't see it.
Exactly.
You can't determine the difference.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So I know a few times you looked up and asked me questions too. How often do you feel that caregivers, especially in your line of work, how often are they maybe telling the person they're caring for to do something and then walking into the next room and walking away?
I would hope it doesn't happen a lot, but I have an idea it probably does happen more than a person would like it to happen. And it's just, you have to realize, as a caregiver, you might have to say something over and over again, and then they might say, what did you say? What am I supposed to do? Yeah. And it's sad, but you have to be very patient and just understand that it's not connecting, if you will. It's not, and another sad thing, we never know, because you don't even have to be old to get dementia. You can get it in the younger ages. That's right. But we have to be aware of, right now, we might be just fine, but we don't know when we might be ourselves or one of our loved ones. That's right. And we have to be very aware of that.
Very much so. It's a constant thinking and awareness and intention with who we're interacting with and
Absolutely,
how.
yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the very beginning when I gave you your tasks.
Okay.
How did you feel about me giving those tasks to you from behind you? I was over your shoulder.
I think when you're given a task or when you're talking to somebody, it should be face-to-face. It should be direct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if they've got hearing loss involved or anything like that.
Exactly.
And if they're not understanding the words that I'm using, then they can read my lips, they can read my body language and know that I'm there to help them through the process. It might help them understand what I said.
And if the person giving the task to the individual, when you look at that person, you can be more aware, are they absorbing what you're saying?
Right.
I mean, it's just like a parent with a child. You will say to your child, you listen to me when I talk to you, because you want to know they're getting exactly what you said. But there again, a person with dementia and the aging process, you might have to say it multiple times.
That's right, that's right. Another piece towards the end when you were asking me questions and seeing, did I do this right? What was next? All those sorts of things. If you were in a different setting, where I hadn't given you tests and it was a structured experience, what might you have done if you were in like a larger group of people, maybe even like 3 or 4 people? How might you have responded if you couldn't figure out who the person was that asked you to do something?
Probably not much more different than what I did,
Just ask around, right?
Yeah. Exactly, And because for myself, because I'm so busy in what I do with what we do for a living and taking care of people, I make lists. all the time. And when I just love it. I got 20 things to do. And when I put that black marker through, you know, so under normal circumstances, I would have a list and I would check it off. And so I probably in the beginning didn't even absorb it as much as I could have or should have.
Yes, definitely. I'm a big list maker too. I totally understand that. And that's a perfect segue to the next point I wanted to make about the tasks. Would it have been easier if I gave them to you one by one?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes.
You feel like you can accomplish that, check it off the list, and then move on to the next one, right?
And I know people with dementia, like if you take them to a restaurant, you don't give them a menu.
Right.
It's too much for them to look at. And, you know, there's like
Too much to absorb and digest and process.
So if you know that she likes or he likes a hamburger or chicken, then you just say, you know, we're going to have hamburgers today. Order that. Because that list is just too much for them.
It's overwhelming.
And so the same way if you tell them too much to do in a sequence, it's just too much.
Exactly. Another thing I want to kind of think about, especially as we're giving advice through the Dementia Live experience to care partners that are caring for folks, is to think about that, what we were talking about earlier, of being in front of a person when you're interacting with them and kind of being in that field of vision or their bubble of awareness. How often do we interact with someone who's living with dementia when they're seated at a dining table or seated somewhere, and we essentially sneak up from behind them and ask them a question, or just whisk them away in the pull the dining room chair away or pull the wheelchair back and just whisk them off to wherever we want them to go without telling them where we're taking them?
I find that to be very frightening.
Yes.
It's startling.
Extremely
and,
so.
It's not the way you should approach it.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly what that aspect, especially of this experience, is intended to convey and teach people. Is, if somebody's coming from behind you, you don't know that they're there. It's startling and it can be very disruptive.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that we're getting into that field of vision with them and interacting with them in a very positive and helpful way, so that experience can move forward in a positive light. Whether that's it's time to eat dinner, or it's time to use the restroom, or it's time to go to physical therapy, or anything like that.
And if you are going to approach them from behind because you're walking in this room, you might say, I have one particular lady I'm thinking of, and I nicknamed her Carolina. Okay. And so her name was actually Carolyn. Oh. But I was called Carolina. So if I was stopping in for a visit and the caregiver was there, I would walk in and I'd go, Carolina. And then she would turn around because I caught her attention.
Correct.
But I would never, ever walk up behind her.
Physically, startle her. Yeah.
Not healthy at all.
Not helpful at all. Definitely not. So we've talked a little bit about altering your hearing and your vision, but what about your hands? So we're wearing this kind of clumsy garden gloves. Was there anything that you found challenging in the experience?
You know what? Amazing enough, I didn't. It was hard on the phone and the calculator because those are very small. The glove was kind of oversized, but for tying the shoe, I kind of impressed myself on that one.
You were impressive to me as well. I'm glad you brought up the shoe as well. So when you're instructed, on a normal basis to take care of your shoes, straighten the shoes or tie the shoes, do you just do one or do you do two? Do you just tie one shoe when you put it on in the morning?
Well, you would have tied two.
You usually tie both, right?
Yeah, right.
How many shoes did you tie in the experience?
One.
One, yes. You moved on to the next task before you forgot, right?
Well, you know what? I did look, though.
Yes?
Because I thought, there's only one shoe here, so I guess we move on.
I hid it. It's tucked under the chair you're sitting in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so think about that, like when we're in residential care or in someone's home caring for them, how often do the shoes stay perfectly next to each other?
Yeah.
Very rarely,
Very
right?
rare.
At least in my house.
Yeah.
My kids are kicking stuff everywhere.
Exactly.
The dog comes in the house and runs it,
Or the dog,
So I never, when I set up the experience, I never put things logically next to each other. The shoes are never together. The hanger and the shirt, never together. The dog food and the dog bowl, never together. Because I know, at least in my house, if someone was living in my home, the dog food is stored in a cupboard and the dog food is in the next room on the floor. They're not right next to each other. So it's logical, but it also, portrays what real life is really like. So having gone through Dementia Live, how do you think that this could be a powerful and transformative experience for folks who care for those living with dementia.
Well, I think that we, as being case managers, I think that when we talk with our caregivers more, we need to maybe express them a little bit more the need to be patient, to be repetitive on things, and if it takes 2 hours for them to eat,
then it takes 2 hours.
It takes 2 hours to eat. Where are we going? There's no hurry, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So I think we can all learn by this very much.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I'll always keep my my real glasses on when absolutely.
But that's a really good point that you make. So if we're asking someone to care for, take care of their daily tasks, but we haven't given them their glasses for the day, how can we expect them to be successful, right?
Exactly.
You saw that you had challenges just by not having your reading glasses. Right. I can't imagine what someone with severe vision loss would be experiencing if they really couldn't see. They didn't have those glasses, or they were dirty even.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know when I have my glasses and there's like one little speck somewhere, I am so focused on getting rid of that speck.
I had one this morning in the office. I can't get that spot off of here.
Yeah, so all those seemingly little things for us as caregivers can be transformative in how they can go about their life in a successful way.
Exactly.
That is the point of Dementia Live.
Yes. I think it's great. It's something, and I think even by me doing this exercise, even though I was aware of these things, it makes me more aware of it.
Yeah, because you felt it. You know what it feels like to be feeling
it.
foolish.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's the whole point of immersing you into dementia. So thank you for going through the experience.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So Jessica, I know you just finished talking with Jan about her experience and her results. Are those the typical results that you would have expected to see with somebody without any cognitive deficits or issues?
Yes, Jan was a wonderful person to go through the experience. She's not only knowledgeable, but she's someone who was able to really verbalize everything that she was feeling. I've had experience with participants very similar to Jan, and some who are moved to tears, and sometimes we have to stop the conversation afterwards and discussing the experience because the emotions are just so intense for them. So
I don't want to go too deep into the results right at this moment, but what would cause somebody to become more hypersensitive with their emotions and become more emotional?
The people that I usually see have more intense reaction is someone who's cared for a family member more often than not, or like lifelong, career caregivers, especially if they didn't have a very good foundation of dementia, disease progression, or anything like that before going through Dementia Live. It's very moving to understand really what somebody's going through that you're caring for every day.
Now, I know you shared with me earlier that sometimes you have large groups that all conduct this at the same time or go through the experience at the same time. Are the results different in those situations than when you're doing it with just, say, one person?
Sure. Yeah, they can be very much different, especially just with one person. Just like in a home or a residential care community, people interact with each other whether they realize it or not, and the same is true for Dementia Live. So you may see people kind of getting lost and wandering or trying to follow the leader on somebody else who's in the space with them, things like that. But as far as like doing it in a very large group setting, like I've done it in a conference setting before, we just do the 4 participants at the front of the room and have everyone else as observers to what's happening. And then everyone kind of chimes in on the experience and what happened in that big discussion afterwards.
How do they usually pick who they're going to follow? Is there like an alpha
There's
in the
really
group?
There's really no rhyme or reason. I think it's just, that person looks confident and looks like they know what they're doing, even if they might not be following the task list perfectly. And so they just kind of gravitate towards someone who they feel like is being confident in what they're doing.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for sharing this experience with us and with Jan today. And now, to discuss the results further, I would like to welcome the president of AGE-u-cate, Laura Ellen Christian. Welcome, Laura Ellen Christian, the president of AGE-u-cate, along with Jessica Smith, the director of senior living initiatives with AGE-u-cate. Thank you both so much for being here to really talk about what we just watched with Jan going through the Dementia Live experience.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. I want to start with Jessica. When Jan went through the experience and you were kind of getting her suited up and everything, And, we were watching the demonstration. What did you find with the results, like from your end? What were you looking for initially, and what did her results really say to you?
Her results really were pretty standard, pretty typical, so to speak. But I always want to observe the person who's going through the experience and kind of figure out what their stress reactions to the situation that they're going through really are like, so that we can use that as a catalyst for conversation during the empowerment session. So a lot of times people don't even realize the things that they're doing while they're going through the Dementia Live experience. And so pointing those out afterwards are where we can kind of learn our lessons and figure out how we can do things better moving forward.
Right. Laura Ellen, did you get a chance to review the results yet of Jan taking the Dementia Live experience?
So Jessica and I definitely connected from her coming out and being with you all to go through the Dementia Live experience. So as Jessica said, I'll really say you say results, Lance, and I love that. And we like to encourage people to think of Dementia Live not so much like as a test, like here are your results, but like Jessica said, really using what we're observing in that experience to be that catalyst of conversation. So what we typically see as people are going through that experience are some of the stress reactions that people living with dementia might often experience in their own lives, such as maybe wandering or repeating yourselves or asking the same questions to the observer over and over. So things like that. So I think in terms of the results of Jan, it was very much in line with what we see with other people going through the experience of it's personal. Dementia is personal. So not everyone's results or how you experience it are the same. And that was very much the case for Jan. So you're going to see some of who that person is come out in terms of the stress that we all have stress reactions, right? So I'm sure as she had conversation with Jan, they could identify some of those.
Right. Laura Ellen, what would you say you think is the most powerful thing about the Dementia Live experience?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lance. I think the most powerful thing about Dementia Live is what that specific person is taking away from it. So obviously experiential learning is very powerful to put yourself in the shoes or in a situation. You're going to learn more because you're doing it, right? That kinesthetic learning. We know that connects with people often at a deeper level. So what's most powerful is letting someone process what they just experienced. So it's that empowerment session. It's the conversation that you're able to have with people after the experience. So you can really help them understand where they're coming from, what they're struggling with right now, maybe in caring for someone living with dementia, and how you can help them try something different to increase quality of life for their loved one, their family member, and themselves.
I know we had spoke with Jessica for a little while after the recording was finished, and I had asked her though, is this something that would be helpful for determining if somebody has dementia? And she explained that, and I'll let Jessica speak to this too. You don't want somebody who is possibly experiencing dementia-like symptoms or in the thralls of dementia to go through the experience. Why is that?
That's right. The biggest thing is we're simulating what it's like to live with dementia. So if we're adding that on top of existing cognitive impairment, we're not giving them really an opportunity to learn. We're giving them just extra, essentially harmful symptoms. It's not helpful at all. So that's not the goal of Dementia Live, is to make anything worse for anybody.
So it's not, I guess, where I was going really with that, it's not used as a diagnostic tool to determine if somebody has dementia. It's not for people with dementia or maybe you suspect of having any sort of cognitive issues. It's really to help the care providers and people around these individuals with dementia to really appreciate and understand what they might be experiencing and going through. Is that a fair way of summarizing it?
Yes.
That's perfect. Yeah, it's an empathy. It's really an empathy program that takes that empathy you're building of going through the experience and helping you kind of open your mind and your capacity to skill building. So Dementia Live is really, like you said, Lance, focused on care partners, whether that's professional or family care partners or people, stakeholders in the community to come and learn. What does it feel like to live with dementia? And then let's use that experience to figure out how we can do better.
Mm-hmm. So are there any certain types of aging service providers that this would be better suited for, or is this really a good resource for any type of company, providers, family who are possibly caring or overseeing and supervising elderly individuals with cognitive decline?
Yeah, it really spans aging services and often beyond. So there's really no sector of industry or business that Dementia Live can't support. Obviously, in the aging services industry, it's very helpful in terms of skill building and an education and training program for people that are directly caring for elders, for people living with dementia. But we see dementia-friendly initiatives using Dementia Live, like I said, to really open the minds of stakeholders. So as a nation, and really internationally, we're beginning to talk more about dementia as a public health crisis. And so as those conversations come up, then obviously you are able to expand, who needs to learn more, and those doors open a little bit wider. We engage with higher education institutions, government entities, area agencies on aging, home care providers, home health, hospice. Really, it's limitless of who can benefit.
What one thing that I found interesting, after the recording was over, another thing that we did do was our video person and myself, we took turns kind of doing a task with the Dementia Live experience. I really didn't have any issue with it. He didn't seem to have really any issue with it. Why is that? Like, why were we having an easier time than, say, Jan did with completing the task? Albeit she had more tasks to keep track of. We each just had one or two. Yeah. What's the connection there?
Well, part of it is, like you said, she had a list of tasks. She had to remember multiple things and then understand me telling her multiple things. And then we also kind of gave you guys a sneak preview into what you were about to do. You guys tried to complete your task after we watched Jan do all of hers. So you kind of were able to kind of get a little cheat sheet, so to speak. But I think a lot of that also just has to do with the way people respond to stressors in their life too. Like Laura Ellen said, you kind of bring your own needs and issues to the table, so to speak. And so everyone responds a little bit differently. Even if they got the same list of tasks, we're able to understand the same portions of those tasks. And so it's your own unique experience. Laura Ellen, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. I'll add, I love that you asked this and we're talking about this because it really emphasizes the power of the empowerment session, right? So Lance, so you and the person that was videoing the experience, you didn't go through the whole experience. Maybe you had more like one-on-one. Jessica gave you one task and then you were completing that task. So you had a better chance because the environment was a lot different in which you were experiencing Dementia Live and the task than Jan was. And that's a great, conversation starter of how do we change the environment for someone living with dementia? You and the videographer did better at your task. So let's think about why was that? Right. And how can we use that learning to apply to someone living with dementia? Don't give all 5 tasks at one time. Give one at a time. And then that person has a better chance to actually feel successful and be successful. So I love that we're having this conversation because that's the exact essence of Dementia Live and the power that it brings.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the benefits of Dementia Live and just AGE-u-cate as a whole. What do you think is the biggest benefit of partnering with AGE-u-cate, and is the program for partners or for really anyone?
Well, I think the biggest benefit is, AGE-u-cate is a training institute. So when you're looking for training and education resources, especially for dementia care, that's what we specialize in. We have a whole team that has worked directly in the aging services industry in a lot of different sectors of the sectors we serve. We have someone that has a higher education experience. Jessica comes from skilled nursing primarily with some home health and hospice background as well. I come from senior living. The list goes on. Pam, who started the company, was a family caregiver, and a lot of us have that in our background as well. So that's really the benefit you get with AGE-u-cate is we're invested in you to be successful because we've been in your shoes. Someone on our team has been in your shoes, and we can really relate. And that's how we look through the lens of creating ongoing education resources for our program providers. And so you ask, is AGE-u-cate for providers or are we for anyone? Our programs are train the trainer. So we do work mostly with providers. And then what we want to do is empower those providers to use our training and education to go out in their local communities and beyond and connect with family caregivers, with direct healthcare workers. So that's kind of our model. We support anybody, but we're best positioned to really work directly with providers so they can go out and continue the good work in their communities.
Yeah, well, and like some of the photos that you guys provided, you're in these facilities and it looks like you're training, a lot of staff at one time. And I know Jessica had shared usually what happens, and we see this even with, families we care for. If you have multiple people with dementia, you're going to kind of play follow the leader, and she explained that there's really no rhyme or reason, but usually when you have a large group setting for the training, you have one or two people that just become the leader automatically, not by designation, but the others just start following them all around, and I think that's, holds so true to what the real experience is like. Before I go to the next question, I wanted to get your guys' input on this. I think the training and, it's fascinating. And, the headset, it's not just a normal pair of, headphones you put on your head, for the viewers and listeners who may not know this because they wouldn't be able to tell from the video. That's a special AGE-u-cate headset that has a track playing in it continuously. And I asked Jessica, I said, well, where's the track coming from? And it's actually an MP3 file that's built into the headset. And once I was able to kind of drown out that noise, I could focus, right? But I think Jessica had even mentioned too, sometimes for our more senior friends, they may not have grown up or they may not use headphones and headsets. So, all of a sudden they have all this noise and all this like static, and there's an alarm going off like a fire drill. And, I can see how, that would be so overwhelming. And then you're still trying to complete these tasks and it's going to throw you completely off, right? So I think for me, once I was able to drown that out, then I was pretty much able to focus. But if I had multiple tasks, it probably would have been a little bit different outcome, I'm assuming. But my question is, there's different types of dementia trainings, right? You have these virtual ones, you have the computer ones where you just sit at a computer. What would you say sets AGE-u-cate apart, or what's the biggest difference, would you say, or sets you apart from like the virtual reality dementia experiences and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are not VR. I think they're all beneficial, right? So if we had endless amounts of time and money, it would be so beneficial for companies to weave all of it in. I think the power of experiential learning is you're immersing physically yourself into the experience. So virtual reality is great, and there are some physical components to it, but it's not all physical, right? Like you're not actually maybe manipulating objects. And I know technology advances and so what I'm saying may not be accurate because it advances so fast, but I think there's something to be said about physically putting on these components, the physical aspects that I'm actually doing this. I'm in a space that is happening right now. So that's what I would say would be the benefit of Dementia Live. And then again, like I keep saying, the power of this program is we train our coaches to help people process their experience. So whether you're going through, virtual reality or you're taking an online learning course, the most important part is who is your coach? Who is your partner that's helping you turn this into skill building?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the benefit of AGE-u-cate too, is we're training those coaches to have really good conversation with people to do that.
Yeah. And well, and I would just add from the outsider's perspective, I can see the benefit to the, the practical real world training because, Jessica was sharing how when she goes into like these senior facilities or nursing homes, rehab centers, whatever you want to call them, they're actually going to be training in the environment that their residents or their patients are living in. I know you used the mattress example and things like that. I think that's really beneficial because it gives them that first world real experience of what their residents or patients are going to be living in and living through. So I think it helps them develop a better understanding and appreciation for that. Again, before we wrap up, first, where would you like viewers and listeners who may be interested in having training at their facility or at that wherever they're at for their providers, where would you like them to go to learn more or to sign up or to reach out to you guys at?
Really just going to AGE-u-cate.com. All of our team's contact information is on there. So based off of whatever industry they're kind of serving their seniors in, one of us is kind of best suited to help provide them with resources and support and kind of customize how they want to build out their training program for the folks that they're supporting.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're in Ohio, Jessica, and you came up to Michigan for this in-person training and demonstration. It doesn't matter where anybody lives at in the United States that they can get training at their facility through AGE-u-cate.
That's right. So yeah, AGE-u-cate.com. We have a list of all of our program partners on our website under our providers. And you can reach out to the AGE-u-cate through our website, through a contact form. Let us know where you are. If you're not at a point where you want to invest to actually, become a trained Dementia Life coach, then what we can do is partner you with a program partner in your area. So that's the other benefit of AGE-u-cate is, we serve as a connector of organizations and people throughout the United States and internationally. So wherever you are, we pretty much guarantee we probably have a program partner close to you. So if AGE-u-cate can't travel out to you, we can find someone that's pretty close that can come out and offer the one-time experience as a demo, as just a one-time education as you're considering investing yourselves.
Wonderful. Before we go here, guys, and thank you again for this. I think the viewers are going to really benefit from this experience and learning about AGE-u-cate. But it's more than just a Dementia Live experience. AGE-u-cate also offers other services. Would one of you like to share what those services and resources are?
Sure. So we offer as well. So we try to stay in the category of quality of life. So AGE-u-cate is really focused on programs and education to help people enhance their quality of life. So our other programs are Compassionate Touch. It's a skilled touch techniques that you're learning. So it's really directly connected to skill building for people living with dementia as well as those at the end of their life. We have our online learning modules. So just your traditional online learning modules, but again, they focus on quality of life and some other target topics. So that's called our Reveal Aging online learning. We also partnered with Opening Minds Through Arts, powered through Scripps Gerontology Center with an intergenerational arts programming certification course. Really interesting course that helps you connect youth with people living with dementia to create beautiful art. Our last program or product is called Flashback. It's very simple. It's a set of reminiscing cards that you can use to have conversation with elders and really position to help two-way conversation. So as younger generations are connecting with older generations, the cards span those generations. So it encourages people to have two-way conversation and just lighthearted connection.
Wonderful. Last question for you. How have program partners been able to see direct business impact from investing in Dementia Live? I can probably think of several just off the top of my head, but why don't you share how they're benefiting from it?
Yeah, it spans the gamut, right, of connecting it into your business goals. And that's the benefit of connecting with AGE-u-cate is we really listen to what your needs are and help you apply our programs to your business goals. But Dementia Live and our other programs, they can be used internally to train your staff. So obviously there's staff turnover, there's retention that is connected to business outcomes. You can use our programs to engage with family caregivers. So it really serves as a robust referral relationship in terms of going out into your community, positioning yourself as an expert in the field that you serve to really get inquiries and have meaningful conversations with them. And then you can take the program out to anyone. So community outreach, creating connections. We were having a conversation with a program partner, actually a hospice provider, and they were bold enough to say that they saw a 20% increase in their patients after investing in Dementia Live. Now, granted, it was during kind of coming out of COVID, but they made that business decision of how are we going to come out of COVID and show up for our community. And it was through that lens of education. So Dementia Lab really helped them grow their business coming out of COVID. So we have a lot of case studies that we partner with program partners on. You can find those on our website, but those are a few examples.
Wonderful. Well, Laura Ellen Christian, President of AGE-u-cate, and Jessica Smith, Director of Senior Living Initiatives, thank you both so much for sharing your time and these resources with us and for coming up and doing the demonstration. It was fascinating to see firsthand, and I just appreciate it, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Lance. I really appreciate your time and interest as well.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us again here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us show ideas, feedback, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to our friends from AGE-u-cate, Laura Ellen Christian and Jessica Smith, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.